under those cold, buzzing fluorescent lights in the middle of a grocery store aisle. I had no idea my whole afternoon was about to flip upside down. I'm talking about the kind of moment that sneaks up on you and ends up changing not just your life, but the life of a kid who never should have had to send the signal she did. The place sounded the same as always, cartwheels clattering over the tile floors, refrigerators humming like tired engines, and shoppers mumbling to each other as they browsed. I was just a rough, tattooed biker minding my own business, my leather vest carrying the big, bold Hell's Angels patch across the back like it always did. Name's Logan Pierce. Most of my life I'd been running from the ghosts behind me. Bad choices, promises I didn't keep, and a heart I'd shut down so tight I wasn't sure anything could open it again. But fate has a funny way of stepping in when you least expect it, and on that plain, nothing special afternoon, it had a completely different plan waiting for me. And hey, if you're someone who believes kindness isn't dead yet, that everybody deserves a second shot, and that sometimes all it takes is a single brave moment to save somebody's life, then hit like, share this with a friend, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because this story right here, it'll remind you that real heroes don't always fly around in capes. Sometimes they're just grumpy bikers in leather jackets trying to buy cereal. I sure wasn't out looking for trouble that day. In fact, all I wanted was to grab a few things before hitting the road for a long ride and some quiet. But the second I rolled into the cereal aisle, everything inside me stopped cold. There was this tiny little girl, couldn't have been more than 6, walking next to a tall guy with a snake tattoo curling down his arm like it was alive. She held his hand, but it wasn't a normal grip. It was tight, scared. Her eyes told an even clearer story. They were wide, terrified, and locked straight onto me like she'd been waiting for someone, anyone, to notice. And then she did something that made the hair on the back of my neck rise. She slowly lifted her hand, palm open, fingers spread apart. Not waving, not playing, a signal, a rescue signal. I'd seen it once before scrolling through social media at 2 in the morning, a silent plea for help when someone can't speak for themselves. At first, I wondered if maybe I was reading it wrong. Maybe she was just being a kid. But then I caught her trembling lip, the faint bruises around her little wrist, and the way that man suddenly tightened his grip the second he realized I was watching them. My pulse kicked into high gear. I didn't know who this child was, didn't know what hell she was living through, but something deep in me, something I'd buried under years of mistakes, snapped awake. I set the cereal box down without thinking and started toward them. The guy with the snake tattoo shot me a warning glare, his whole posture shifting like he was gearing up for a fight. The girl's eyes were practically begging me not to walk away. My boots thumped on the floor as I got closer, trying to play it cool. "Hey there, little one," I murmured, keeping my voice soft and steady, like I didn't want to spook her. The man jerked her closer and muttered something about being in a hurry, but my gut screamed one thing: liar. Right then, the girl shook her head, not wildly, just a tiny motion, but enough for me to see. Her hand stayed lifted halfway, shining like a beacon in a storm, so I went along with a little game. "You dropped something," I told the man, pointing behind them like I'd seen something hit the floor. He turned his head for just half a second, just long enough. I dropped down to the girl's level, leaned in close, and whispered, "You're safe now." Then I stood tall again, locked eyes with the man, and in one smooth move I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. The guy snapped his head toward me and growled, "What the hell do you think you're doing, old man?" But the second he said it, something inside me shifted. My voice dropped into that calm, steady tone I used to have back when trouble followed me everywhere. "Easy there, buddy," I said, quiet but firm. "Let's not turn this into a circus. Cops are already on their way." And I wasn't bluffing. Not even a little. I'd hit my emergency SOS the moment he tensed up, and my phone had already alerted 911. That must have hit him harder than anything I said, because the man's whole expression cracked. Panic washed over him, and without another word, he let go of the little girl's hand and tore off down the aisle like a spooked animal. I didn't waste a second. I slipped my leather jacket around the shaking kid and pulled her close, guiding her toward the front of the store. People were staring now, confused and whispering, just as the rising wail of police sirens carried through the automatic doors. The girl, her name was Mia, I'd find out later, held on to me like she was afraid the world would swallow her if she let go. Her tiny fingers curled into my jacket, like that old leather was the only safe place she had left. When the officers burst inside, everything unfolded in fast forward. The man with the snake tattoo was grabbed before he even cleared the parking lot. And soon enough, the truth came out. He wasn't her father, not even close. He'd snatched her 2 days earlier from a nearby park, and no one had seen her since. Hearing that hit me in the chest like a steel boot. As the officers tried to get her statement, Mia kept turning her head just to make sure I was still there. She didn't cry. She barely spoke. She just held onto my hand like she already knew I showed up for a reason I didn't even understand myself. And let me tell you something. I've been called every name in the book. Criminal, thug, trash, outcast. I'd built walls around myself so tall I figured they'd hold forever. But in that moment, standing there with this kid who trusted me more than she trusted the whole world, something in me cracked wide open. Something I thought died a long time ago. Then her mother showed up. The woman nearly collapsed when she saw her daughter, sobbing as she wrapped Mia into the kind of hug only a terrified parent can give. I stepped back, looked away, wiped my eyes with the back of my hand before anybody noticed. I wasn't trying to be a tough guy. I just didn't know how to handle the feeling in my chest. Right before I left, Mia pulled away from her mom and ran straight to me. She reached into the pocket of my jacket and tucked something small inside, a tiny toy angel. She looked up and whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "You're my biker angel." I didn't know what to say. My throat locked up. All I could do was give her a faint smile, nod once, and walk out into the sunlight. My boots hit the pavement soft and slow, like even the ground knew something had shifted in me. A few days later, the local news ran the whole story. Some Hell's Angel who saved a little girl with a silent rescue signal. And just like that, overnight, folks started calling me a hero. A hero, me. But truth is, I didn't care about the attention. It wasn't about cameras or praise. It was about the feeling I hadn't had in years, redemption. For the first time, I felt like the road I'd been riding all my life might finally be taking me somewhere good. Months went by, and every now and then I'd stop by that same grocery store. Part of me hoped I'd run into Mia and her mom. Sometimes it happened. Sometimes it didn't. But every time I fired up my bike and rode past that place, I'd reach down and touch the little angel charm hanging from my keychain. And I'd whisper a promise I meant with every piece of me. I'll never ignore another hand raised for help. Not ever. And deep inside, I knew the truth. Saving Mia didn't just save her life, it saved mine too. If this story pulled at your heart, if you believe even the toughest-looking people can carry the softest souls, go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's spread this message because one small signal, one moment of courage, really can change everything. Before you scroll away, tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you saw that little girl raise her hand?